Very
Okay,
good.
we're being recorded.
So it should, so if you should have a Zoom file pop up in your documents or something like that. Have you ever found one before on your computer?
I know when other people have recorded it for me, they send it to me probably.
What'll happen is as soon as you hit end to this, you'll see a bar start going up on your screen for
Okay.
it to be uploaded.
Yeah.
And then it'll click, say, where do you want it saved? And at that point, you'll be able to say where you want to save it on your computer.
Okay. All right. I think I should be good then. Summer download to my computer.
So congratulations on your new purchase.
Yeah, it's EMF protection 5 gigahertz, or the it goes from standard is from 400 megahertz to 10 gigahertz, and then you can up it to the gigahertz range, which I think the next range is like 23 gigahertz to 30 gigahertz.
This page says 40 megahertz.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 40 megahertz is the base.
That's pretty wide. That's a huge range.
It is, and I've tested it up against the Safe and Sound, and I'm going to kind of show you something really quick here. I don't know if you see my wall here or not, but I'm gonna.
You have the background blurred, but I can see the wall.
Oh, I wonder how I get that unblurred.
You go into your video, that little arrow to the side of your video settings, and you go to video settings.
Okay, let me look at. Okay, let's hit this. Okay,
That
blur.
little arrow,
I see it. Choose virtual background. No.
it says blur your background.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it off that.
There you go. It's clear now.
Okay. All right. So this is pretty interesting, Andrew. I've actually been wanting to talk about this a couple of times, but usually between like 3 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock in the morning, I get in my wiring, I get a really high, frequency, and you hear it shifting from 2.45 to the 4.8 or 5 gigahertz, wherever the 2 gigahertz are they're using. And you can hear it spinning, but it's in my wiring. But it gets worse at night than it does in the daytime. So obviously I'm connected to my neighbor, but I went around the whole house here, and it's just on this one back wall of my house here. But on the other side, I measured the outside ambient frequencies coming from this direction on the outside of my house, and it's not there. It's in my wiring. But especially around my metal, which is now a mechanical meter. It's not the smart meter. It's gone now.
Wow.
But around that area, it picks up a lot more of that Wi-Fi. You hear the signal in the wiring, especially around my metal casing here. So I don't know if it's acting as a for some reason acting like a conductor because it's metal. But when I turn these meters on here, and turn on the new one.
Well, just know that you're testing the whole grid right there.
Okay, well it's okay. So if I'm up against this, but watch it. So let's turn this down here a little bit, but I'm up against here. This is a lot more sensitive. So I get 192 versus 83. 460.
Okay, so pull it back about 6 inches.
Well, let me reset it then.
And see if you're getting the same thing.
No, I'm gonna reset this one because reset this one.
Because that magnetic field coming off of that will reach out probably about 6 or 8 feet into the room. So we don't want to blow up your antennas by the strength of the magnetic field.
My antennas on here.
Right. That magnetic field is so strong, it's going to really jar whatever the antennas are in there. So we want just close enough to get the signals that we want without blowing them up with that really strong electric and magnetic field from the wiring.
Okay, so even in my kitchen, you've been in the house before. So even right from my kitchen area, even where my kitchen table is at in a far area, up against the wiring, I get the same 2.5 and 5 gigahertz frequencies spitting back and forth. You know it's a Wi-Fi. So why? Yeah,
I remember that hotspot on your wall.
Yeah, that's the same thing that I'm getting now. Is I'll get 6 inches here, and obviously it depends where I'm at. It fluctuates quite a bit, but this one's a lot more sensitive.
So what you want to first determine is if it only shows up when you're in those fields and you move out of the fields and then it disappears,
Well, sure.
then you
Yeah.
know the frequencies are being emitted inside of the electric and magnetic fields only, and they're not broadcasting beyond the electric and magnetic fields of the wires.
So about 6 feet then, possibly.
Yeah.
Okay, so why is it in my wiring then, even though I don't have Wi-Fi in my house, but my neighbor does? And obviously, we know about the transformers being grounded, and we know that our first means disconnect is grounded, and we know the primary and secondary side of the transformer is connected with the wire, which makes this house a antenna. So then we have 6 or 7 other people in the same transformer grounded, the same concept. So is that because of the secondary side of the transformer, my neighbor's Wi-Fi system getting into my wiring?
That's right. So the primary on the grid is basically the whole world.
Right.
And then you have that bond wire that comes to the secondary, which is your wiring.
Right.
And your neutral is basically the ground. The ground is the neutral is the ground.
Mhm.
And that is bare naked from the whole world, comes in on your neutral. So your neutral comes in, it also hits your neighbor, it also hits the whole world, and that neutral comes right to that panel. So you will pick up every frequency that lives on the primary side of the transformer on your neutral.
Okay, so we're picking up, so I'm getting here, and again, what's interesting, it's worse at night, so it tells me they're pulling something at night when people aren't using the computers probably as much. I don't understand why it gets so much worse. Like literally, I was getting 25,000, where here I got 170, 25,000 microwatts in the middle of the night.
All right, let me share the screen really quick, just so we're, if you ever show this to anybody, so we're all talking about the same thing.
Okay.
Using your meter right there, and then I'm going to pull up on my website the current flow whack-a-mole, which has the grid pictures. All right.
I'm getting the same thing in my customers' houses too. I just didn't understand how to really get around the discernment of how to explain this.
Well, let's walk through it step by step.
Okay.
So when we're talking about your grid transformer, the power is brought to whatever the green box on the property or whatever, or power, the can on the tube, whatever it is. This is the
Right.
primary. These are the wires, the high voltage wires, and then there's a return wire. You can call it neutral, whatever you want, and it's grounded.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have this bond wire that connects the primary side to the secondary. That's your middle wire here.
Right.
That's
Now,
your
do you also-
neutral,
Right.
and that's
Yep.
grounded.
That's grounded.
And then you and all your neighbors are all connected on the same transformer to this neutral, which is connected to the primary, right?
Right.
So
Our
any
vi-
noise out here is also on your neutral.
Okay. So we basically just made an antenna for the whole entire world.
Absolutely.
So the box that we live in building biology, we say it's on life support. So it's on life support because we don't heat and cool it, we die. It's the way they're built. And then we put power lines and the lower voltages around our entire house. And we set up an antenna system that I call navy gray up on the transformer above, and I call it bright green on the transformers on the ground. Acting together, connecting the sewage wall with the neighbors, and we're not wondering why we're getting sick.
Absolutely. And the whole utility premise is, well, if we all share it equally, it'll lower it for everybody enough to whatever we consider, safe. So it's a nightmare. So your neutral comes into your house, and this is, where it's bonded and where it's grounded. Of course, the cable is bonded to the intersystem bonding termination, your phone lines, whatever. And then your equipment grounded conductor goes to all of your outlets in your house, and that's connected right there.
Mhm.
So what I would recommend is for clients, if they want to get that, isolated, is you put a big breaker, and you basically put all of the circuits that you want off in a big 3-pole disconnect. Your hot's neutral, and even if you want to go with your grounding system, Elizabeth Phillips has this, but she has it for the whole house. What you'll want is you want to keep just like your AC and your fridge on, and then the rest of the house, which is like a big beehive, which is, you know, you're inside this whole cage of energy. Cut it off so you can just keep your fridge on, keep your AC on, but then cut the whole rest of the house off from this effect.
Okay,
Now,
so if I
now
did,
people are trying to filter this, but you know, it's really, really hard.
but we're right. And I got filters in the house too, and you're still not filtering. I mean, now that you hear it, it's, I mean, I guess, yeah. Okay, so what you're saying is the way you really eliminate all that is just turn off all the breakers that's not needed in the whole house, except for the ones you need to keep the house. What about the air conditioner?
Well, just turning off breakers won't disrupt the neutral.
Okay, that's right, right.
So you really need two breaker panels, one for everything you're not going to use at night.
Oh, so you
And
can
you're going
actually
to
have
shut everything off.
you can set up two separate breaker panels and do it this way, where it's just automatically turn. Now, would it be like a sleep switch, or you set a button and turn all those off, one breaker? Or are you
Well, the
talking
sleep
about
state is going in the right direction, but they don't cut enough. They're not cutting the grounding conductor too. They're cutting the hot and the neutral, which is a good start, but the grounding conductor is still on.
what it is?
So they really need a 3-pole for every circuit. Now you can just try to isolate your bedroom, which I do, is I put a 3-pole disconnect on my bedroom and I turn that off every night. So the hot, neutral, and ground are broken and no energy is radiated into the wires at least. So, but then you ruin your grounding. If there's any shielding or any other things that is relying upon your grounding system, you can't use the 3-pole.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't have anything that's grounded, so I use, you know, my net's not grounded.
So it gets very complex, but these are the solutions we currently have for a disastrous situation.
Okay, so the electrician could set up a separate panel then, we don't have all these breakers turned off at night.
Probably an easier thing to do is your main panel has so many wires coming into it, is you just leave that there. And what you're going to do is between your outside meter and your inside panel, you're going to add a disconnect. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to be able to turn off that whole panel. But wait a minute, you just turned off the whole panel. What am I going to do with my refrigerator and my AC? Well, we're going to add another little tiny panel
Okay,
just for those. So it's a lot less expensive rather than rewiring the whole house. You're going to take maybe 2 or 3 circuits, AC, furnace, and fridges, and you're going to plug them into a new panel, and that'll stay on all the time. Of course, you could turn it off if you wanted, but so you take the ones you want to stay on all the time into a new panel, and then the whole rest of the house, you're going to have a big ka-chunk, all of the conductors,
that seems like
hots, neutrals, and grounds.
that's a way better way than I've ever heard before. So this is different. This is obviously different than a meter disconnect combo we normally do, where the first means it disconnects outside. This is actually with this disconnect we put on the inside of the house, like in the basement of my house.
Yep, you could put it, you know, you want it convenient.
Yeah,
so
right.
You can, you know, manage it. And the meter disconnect gets you isolation, starts the disconnect, disconnects you from your neutral wire instead of having your neutral and your grounds completely, you know, bonded all the time, and all the voltages and the currents from that situation starts to get some separation. So you start getting control over it. And then from there, you can start to divvy up what do you completely want to just eliminate from the situation at night. I don't want to have any of my wires and the rest of the house resonating with all this crap.
I might like to do, might like to do that here. So if I stay here another year, I might just do it.
And the good thing about this is you're only going to be paying for like a 30 or a 60 amp little sub panel, which is, you know, $100, less than $100. And whether you want it fused or a breaker on it is completely separate. That's up to your electrician and your local codes. You may be able to just add a disconnect, you know, 3 wires in, 3 wires out, and just be able to throw everything off. And then, but what you have to consider now is Is it a 240? Of course, your ACs are probably 240. So then we need a 240. If you only had a 120, only 120 appliances, refrigerators and stuff, it gets a little complex when you have to think about it. Do we just want to have 120 circuits, or we're going to have a 240 sub panel? But then once you decide, okay, we're going to have a 240 sub panel, it's two hots and a neutral. It's just like another sub panel. It's just
Yeah.
really small.
Okay, that's great. Okay, one more question for you really quick, because this has been on my mind. So on my LED light bulb, when I do my oscilloscope, of course, the better ones don't show up on the conductive emissions in my meters, like the Stetzers and the other meter. And then it doesn't always show up on my spectrum on my computer screen here. But I usually always get I use my Spectrum UberTech. I always get a spike, so it tells me that there is actually some pulsing going on. But my question is, we know current, we still, no matter what, when I use a oscilloscope, no matter what LED I use, we always get that corrupted current shape on my oscilloscope. So I know voltages, which is what we usually see and pick up with these meters, but they're missing, and why people think these LEDs are safe is they're not seeing the current being corrupted, which causes contact current, possibly, and makes that current, is it more active because we're corrupting that current, and therefore it's making people more sick because of that? How does that actually play, just so I can describe this, where no matter what LED you use, does not matter, they're not good for you because of current?
Exactly. So you can set up with your fluke how current is flying through the air. And you've probably already done this.
Yeah.
You put it on microamp.
Yeah.
And, you know, the black lead to an outlet and the red lead, literally, you could hold on to it with your hand. I don't know if you want to get fried, but you can have your client hold on to the red lead.
I got it right here.
And then their hand go close to the light bulb and then pull it away.
That's a great idea.
If fluorescent bulbs is like, oh my God, this is crazy with the amount of current that's flying through the air. LEDs are much less.
Yeah, no, the CFLs are a lot. Like, I've done that before. It shows up quite a bit. And you put that on hertz, right?
The fluke, you want it on current to show if you want to show them, you know, if current's flying through the air.
Where's current on the fluke? What would I switch to? What's that?
It's the UA, all the way turned like 3 o'clock.
UA, okay. Yeah, UA.
And you have the red lead on the left side of the black.
Ah, okay, turn around here. Okay.
In the
do I
MA.
switch them here, or just? Okay,
You just leave the black in the black, the common,
okay, all right.
and the red goes in the MA.
That goes into the MA. Okay, I got it. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Black was wrong. Okay, so I got it. Okay, so that's where.
Now, current always requires a circuit. It's a circle, right?
Okay.
It has to come in and then out of your body.
Okay, so I got them. So I have black one, I have the red one.
The black one, you're either going to put like to the metal tip of a grounding mat or to an outlet.
Okay, so
grounding prong.
So that's what I did wrong last time on the demonstration. So I got the metal tip here, the black one, right?
And that is fine. That if that thing is plugged into the wall, just as long as it's not into my NCB, because my NC will block.
No, I didn't cancel it out. Right. So there's no NCB. We got a grounding man. I got that plugged in there. Now, right now, everything's still on 0.
Right. Now you take your source and you're going to touch the red near to the source, or you give it to your client's hand and they see how much of it will actually go through their body. And usually it freaks them out.
Yeah. So the black would go on the metal. I have the metal on my grounding mat here.
Or do a little alligator clip or something, just so you don't have to worry about it.
Let me do this. I have the alligator clip here.
Yeah.
So let's just plug it in. Just real quick. And then we'll finish up on that. So this is. All right. So I got the alligator clip.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, okay. So where does the outlet clip go?
Black lead.
Okay, clipping on black. Okay,
Okay, now your red lead is going to be your source. So what's the source? The LED light?
well, yeah, I don't have an LED light here, but that's what I would do is put that on the LED light then.
You'd go somewhere near it.
Let me go, okay.
And
So this is.
there is actually a setting where you can do both hertz and current if you wanted.
Okay.
It gets a little complex, but
Yeah, well, maybe next time I see it, we'll play for that, but I just want to kind of get this. So right now, this is what's showing up.
good. You haven't completed a circuit.
Okay,
Now, if you just touch it with the tip of your hand, you probably will get nothing unless you get close to a source and it's like going through your legs, coming up your feet, or one from
Okay,
one of
so
your
that
hands
was-
to something
I'm gonna
else.
see on zero unless I get to a source then. Because I can practice, I'll get the light bulbs out and I'll practice later on today. I just want to.
Right. And if you put your hand like on a metal part of a laptop or anything else.
Yeah, there we go. I touched the laptop.
Right.
So. Well, there was a wire there. That's what, there we go. Yeah, so that's, now I'm getting dirty electricity running through my body, or current, I mean.
Right.
Sure.
And you can scope that, or you can put that on harmonics and a frequency and current at the same time. I have to show you how to get into the menu to do that.
Okay, we'll do it some other time. I won't get to it today because it'd be a little bit much, but at least got an idea. But it's amazing, just if I touch this computer, I got current running through me, microamps, 3 microamps already, right?
So what you want to know is it went across your chest into the red lead. So your chest has 1,000 ohms of resistance across it.
Okay,
So if you touched the tip of the red lead directly onto the computer, how much would you have?
okay. Nothing. Nothing.
So maybe the surface area of your hand was more conductive than the actual tip of that metal.
Yeah. So if I touch this, and then I hit that, yeah, now I'm getting it, about 1 microamp, maybe 1.8.
And the whole message of this is, you asked me earlier about the harm. How I read the EPRR research. So I'm going to go back to the web page here. So at the on my website, you can take people to this you want. It's the very first square here, the EPR research timeline.
Yeah, I got that printed out too.
So what these guys are finding is if you have what they said, if you had 5 microamps coming up on your meter.
Yeah, and this is, I was getting 1 to 2 to 3, but that was obviously a pretty low area.
Well, let's do the math. If you had 5, that would mean 20 millivolts per meter, and we want 1.
Okay.
So that's 20 times too much.
Okay. All right. So if I had
So
2,
what's 20 times less than 5 is 0.2.
okay.
So if you have 1 microamp showing up on your meter,
Right.
you've already exceeded the NIEHS limit for leukemia and cancer causing.
So just about a computer touching that thing can cause cancer.
You are creating a situation where you have completed a circuit and currents flowing through the body. You have ionizing damage.
Wow. And obviously we know how effective knocking the electron off the atom is the most damaging.
In my opinion, that's what all of the scientists agree. Well, this is non-ionizing radiation. You're fine. If it were ionizing, that'd be a different topic. Well,
that's what this is.
I believe that current is the literal definition of ionizing.
Okay.
Is that's what current flow is. It's ripping electrons off.
So when that oscilloscope shows that corrupted current in that my oscilloscope, that now gets in your wiring, correct?
Now you're talking about frequencies.
Okay.
In addition, riding on top of current. Now you have a double sword, because my paper that's going to be hopefully published soon is going to show we're not talking about wet yet, but what we're talking about is now that you have frequencies in addition to what frequencies are we talking about determines, one, they're going to get through the skin, but two, anything above 10 kilohertz is going to go through the actual cell membranes. So we have two thresholds now. Dave Stetzer was the first one to publish that anything over 2 kilohertz gets into the skin. Okay, goes beyond the skin. Now we have more research that's saying, okay, well, what about anything above 10 kilohertz? 10 kilohertz starts going inside the cell, and the higher and higher frequencies, more and more goes through the cell. So we have two different phenomenon. We have current that's able just to travel through the liquids in our body, but then we add frequencies. Now it's going through the cells inside of our body.
So the current attraction frequencies, or it is
the current is like the bus carrying the demons.
Okay, that's what I thought, and that's all over the place. You use a bus stick, you can feel the current all around the floors and everything in your house.
Oh, was I not sharing the screen?
Not right now, no. Oh,
did you see these pictures?
No, I didn't see it.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me do this.
That's okay. It's good to focus on what you're saying, but
so the first part is 2 kilohertz gets through the skin.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's just crawling on the surface. So okay. 2 kilohertz gets into the skin. Now, anything above 10 kilohertz starts going through the cells, and higher, straighter, like radio frequencies, right through the cell. So all of the higher frequencies is delivered deeply into the body.
Yeah. So that's getting into harmonics. When you get in 1 megahertz, so those harmonics, that's what those even get more damaging.
Well, I usually use the word harmonics when we're dealing with very low frequencies, below 3 kilohertz.
Okay. All right.
Variable frequency drives, things like that have a lot of harmonics in the lower range. But you can always have harmonics at a higher range. That's fine. But literally any frequencies. So you have your current wave. There's 2 waves. One's a voltage wave, and then one's a current wave. And when they line up, you have good power factor. Okay.
Yeah. So like, would the red one be my current wave, and my yellow one on my oscilloscope be the voltage wave?
Or vice versa. I think it's blue and red, right?
Well, mine's red and yellow.
Okay.
On my oscilloscope.
Yeah, I can't remember which one's which, but one of them will be the voltage and one will be the current.
Yeah, because obviously the voltage is the one that it's going to be yellow, because that's the one you can see all the radicness frequencies above 60 hertz. So above 60 hertz, that's the yellow one.
Yeah, I'm not sure with the O1 how that's present, but regardless,
okay,
the current is going to be carrying the noise when it's traveling. It also creates a magnetic field. Current causes a magnetic field.
All right.
Inside the magnetic field, you will also have the frequencies. So I make the case that when you have current going through the body, you have a deep penetration of harm, because yes, the higher frequencies drive deeper, and also they create magnetic fields that is like another 90-degree flip, radiating and ripping stuff around it. So voltage does none of this. You can have a voltage on your skin and it just creates an electric field and it's hovering around your body. But as soon as you add current and you complete a circuit from left to right hand or through your foot, and then starts traveling inside your body, then we're delivering it deep in, higher frequencies, even deeper, and they create magnetic fields inside the body.
So the light bulbs, the LEDs, like I said, the ones that supposedly look cleaner, it doesn't show up on the sector meters, and then also we don't show up on the other one that makes the noise. That meter's called out. I forget the name. I for some reason I want to say safe and sound, but it's not. It's the anyway, the one that actually makes a noise out of the meter. You hear the electricity in the actual meter. But anyway, so to know for sure what your answer is, what's the answer to all LED light bulbs are bad because on the oscilloscope you can see the corrupted current. or sine wave?
They produce an envelope of energy around them in their electric field of all these harmful frequencies, all the blue light frequencies, right?
Yeah.
So if you have an electric field like your NFA 1000 and you come close it and here's the electric field from this source. And if your hand were there, it'd start crawling on your skin, right?
Right.
Now we want to know, well, that's not good. But a worse harm is that current actually able to make it through our body? Now, you usually would not have current go through your body with an LED bulb. There's not enough force, there's not enough magnetic field. Like a fluorescent light bulb, they have different properties, but LED, you still having all this switching, it's a horrible noise. But really, will it induce a current into the body? Not much, unless you do one of two things. You literally touch it. Now you're making contact. Now you're in trouble, but not many people will touch an LED light bulb. Or if you use a grounding mat. If your grounding mat is like on your desk and you are close, you are completing a circuit for all the energy around your LED, you are creating a circuit. Now, if you take your hand off the grounding mat and you're not allowing a circuit to exist, that current probably won't go through your body. It'll just hover around your skin and it'll be less damaging. You probably still get a headache and all the other phenomenon. The light is bad and all this other kind of stuff. Circadian rhythms are messed up. Your mitochondrial cycles are messed up, but the current won't go through your body unless you get really close and you create a circuit.
Okay, so even from the direct electricity or conductive emissions that come off the wiring, we know that typical light bulbs in general, the bed LEDs and CFLs and switch mode power supplies, those are all frequencies that are riding above the 6 hertz cycle. And it's coming in that field, I call it invisible smoke. And in that field is where we're getting hammered, 10,000 times, 100,000 times, even a million times a second coming off that. So what would the LED that doesn't put out a lot of the conductive emissions, but it does corrupt that oscilloscope sine wave? So in that wiring, is that doing something additional, even though it's not creating a lot of electricity, but it's creating corrupted sine waves into the electricity of the actual house? Is that making people sicker?
Oh, sure. Whenever one of those light bulbs is on, the neutral wire is carrying the corrupted current sine wave. So that neutral wire is going back and hitting all your other neutrals in your whole house.
Okay.
So all those little frequencies are now thrown around your whole grounding system of your house and all the other neutrals, and it can destroy. And the whole secret is keep the body outside of that electric field, and of course, not making contact with it. So doing MC cable, whatever you can to suppress those frequencies, keep them contained.
Right.
And don't plug into it. Don't put your body onto that frequency, right?
Right. Because without the oscilloscope, I would not be able to see that corrupted current, because obviously my meters I use are plug-in meters, even my spectrum on my computer, because I know a lot of times those LEDs will shunt everything down to a lower frequency, down below 3 kilohertz, to make them not show up on our meters. So that's not, people say, oh, it's a clean LED, it must be fine. My meter didn't change. But we know by the oscilloscope, just period, by that alone, setting aside, a lot of times they do show up on my spectrum analyzer. And what's good about the UberTech, even the clean ones, so there's a little pulse, blue light, no matter what. They have a little pulse in that area. So that tells me something else is going on energetically, that it might not be showing on meters, but something on energetically. So I guess my roundabout question here is, can I say to, no matter what, any LED you have, no matter what, is causing some potential harm to the human body?
Absolutely.
Okay, then that's because of the wire around the house coming in, and that current can does it create more activity for the voltages to get more active in your body because you have more current? Does it create more current, or does it corrupt the current?
The current is more damaging because you have these higher frequencies now.
Right. Yeah, because they're going to jump on that. So,
And the higher frequencies go internal.
okay, and so higher frequency, so therefore the LED, even though it's clean, it's putting out more current now. It might have been clean on the voltages, corrupting the voltage, but it's still corrupting the current or creating more current. Then the other frequencies jump into it from the switch mode power supplies and maybe some other grid LED light bulbs getting into your primary, secondary side into the house. All that can blend together, and that current from the LED is supposedly clean can cause harm.
Well, I wouldn't say it creates more current. It's actually
Okay.
very, very small. It uses such small power that it's very small amount of current
Okay.
that's drawn. But on that current wave is what you're picking up on your oscope. You're seeing all that noise on that current wave.
Right.
It's probably only drawing, I don't know, 100 milliamps or 50 milliamps of current, versus a light bulb would be 500 milliamps. Yeah, a normal incandescent light bulb. So that's a lot of current, but it's clean.
Yeah. Right.
And you can show that on you put a screw in your incandescent light bulb.
Yeah, I can show it immediately. So it doesn't corrupt my spectrum analyzer on all two of them, the wavelength or the spectrum I use for Pico. So it's clean them both. Most LEDs will show up on the UberText wavelength. They will show up on the picoscope spectrum, shows up on both. But I have a couple recent ones I've tested light bulbs that did not show up that well at all on my Pico spectrum. Did not show up on my plug-in meters from Stetzer, but did have a little bit of a pulse on the UberTech in the blue light areas. It wasn't really like a normal, obviously not close to an incandescent. So that is where, because it would look better for some people to say, well, that's good enough, or that's a light bulb that's safe. But we know it's not.
Well, this is a really good question. I haven't done that much research. Nowhere what you have on this. And you may be coming across some LEDs that are whatever you want to call, have a cleaner profile. They're just, the whole principle of blue light is damaging. Maybe they are cleaner than some. Whether you choose to use them or not is completely up to the person. So you could say, on a range of 1 to 10, it's a 7, and an normal incandescent light bulb's a 1, super clean. What do you choose for your, you have a husband that says, I don't care what you want, I'm getting an LED because we're going to save money. Okay, save a marriage, you got to use an LED light. Which one?
Okay. So I guess the reason I'm saying that is, like, for example, hypothetically, I was on the Dell Big Tree show, and someone asked me, is there a safe LED? And I'm obviously going to say, no, there's not. And they're going to ask me another question about, well, this one here is safe because it doesn't put out these types of transients or harmonics or voltages. And I can say, well, I've tested it, but what you don't see is, as I have, is an oscilloscope, and it's got a corrupted sine wave there. So with a corrupted sine wave, shows me that it's not a scale of 1 to 10. It's definitely not a 10, but maybe you might want to give it a 10 being the best and 1 being the worst, maybe, or vice versa. We say 1's the best, 10's the worst. It might be a 2 or 3, but it's definitely not a 1.
Right. You can never use the word safe. We're on a sliding scale of safer, more healthy, or less healthy, because none of this crap is safe or healthy, right? So yes, you're right. If you're on a Dell Big Tree show, you're going to have people that are just looking for the quick answer. And if you say everything is bad, you lose credibility.
That's right.
If you're able to determine that, yes, all the LEDs are unhealthy, but this one brand is less bad, you have a lot of credibility, because then, okay, well, it's just not like everything is thrown out with the baby, A lot of people just flip with their brains that don't have brain space or intellect to have any time for this discussion, and you'll have a lot more credibility if you can split hairs.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's why I want to reach out to you because this is a deep dive conversation that very few people get into this type of deep dive with, because everybody thinks most people think either LEDs are safe or they feel like or it's not safe. Usually they're one of the two. And I know more and more people now that are kind of feeling more comfortable with the LEDs because you don't have such a flicker off these things. Because I'm not picking up the flicker on the better ones as much, a small amount. You still tell it pulses a little bit. And because of that, everybody thinks now, oh, they're safe, and let's just go ahead and take the deep dive in the LED. But my concern is yeah, they might be cleaner, but through a aspect of using these LEDs maybe for something that's more mysterious, we like injecting frequencies into the air somehow through these LEDs. I know there's potential for that. I wonder if all LEDs have that potential, or is there a worse or better LED for that type of Wi-Fi or Li-Fi into these lights to make people sick or just maybe spy on you. That's why I was kind of taking the deep dive there a little bit.
Well, you know better than most all of the capabilities of the LED light bulbs now, how they can be hacked, how they can transmit, all of these different possibilities. And also your capacitor could blow out, and then all of a sudden your LED light was great and now it's shit because they use such cheap components in there.
Yeah, I want to say one more thing too, that I know this is 100% fact. It's a nice thing about doing your own studies. This kind of happened on an accident, but I've had, before I got my smart meters removed, my incandescent light bulbs were blowing out really often, especially in my laundry room. You've been in my laundry room, that light bulb in there, man, I just couldn't. It lasted maybe 2 months max and blow out. Now that I got my smart meter off my house, they don't blow out at all ever. I mean, I'm getting a lot longer time. I got 6 months out of the last time I changed the light bulb in the laundry room. So I do know that those high transient voltages that's put into the electrical grid is blowing out our incandescent light bulbs. And that's why a lot of people comment, well, I'm just sick and tired of changing them out. They blow out all the time. Well, not only are the LEDs causing that potential because of voltage variances, but also the smart meter. And then that's why they're more likely to fly again into the LEDs. I think that's done intentional too, to get people to switch to the LED, because it gets to a point where you get sick and tired of changing light bulbs, especially if they have more and more into the ceilings that are 12 feet high in these nice homes. No one wants to get up on the ladder and climb 12 feet to change the light bulb out. So I just think that's something I have noticed, that not only would they save potentially on their utility bill by going back to mechanical meter, but also they'll want to change the light bulbs out really much as well.
Well, the frequency wars that we're dealing with right now, that are very small windows that will activate a disease to make it grow. I mean, you could say, oh, this is a nice clean LED. Yeah, but unfortunately, it has a very small window that just seems to activate a certain growth, How in the hell?
Yeah, fungus. And then I get anxiety attacks around LEDs. We now know that activates pathogens. So with my Lyme disease and my Epstein-Barr and the Bartonella, it makes me have like anxiety attacks being around them. So I know it was activating those non-ionized radiation, activates viruses and bacteria are activated by all non-ionized radiation. But I think the LEDs, because the pulse modulation they do, really affects me. And just like you've been to Laura's house, who talked like really super fast. We got her smart meter off. We switched mode. We did the she was in Fenton, but we did the we meter disconnect combo. We've now hardwired the whole house now. She got the DNA and the sign timber done finally. And she would call me literally, Andrew, 6 times a day, every day, 7 days a week, whether I answer the phone or not. Just call me. We not stop. All of a sudden, she stopped calling me. And I was like, wow. So finally, she called me about a week ago, and she was talking a little slow and normal. Remember, she was talking where she just asked the same question. She would just keep going with it. And then she asked it again. And it was like so much packed into her question, you couldn't even answer it. There was like so much. And you're like, well, let's get done with this. Where she sounds amazingly better. So we got the smart meter off our house. she said, Rob, I felt the difference immediately. Now I got everything's hardwired now. And she's like, perfect. She doesn't call me anymore. So, her brain was being affected by all that wireless radiation and transients and harmonics and whatever else they go on in wiring. But and then of course we did the meter distance combo.
Good
But
job, Rob.
yeah, what an amazing turnout was. Well, good job for you, man. We wouldn't have had that system set up with a meter distance combo. Would have gave us the confidence that we picked these people's houses. But even though we know this stuff, but to actually get to see someone turn that much difference, to just have a complete life changing experience by doing this, it's like, holy moly, man, unbelievable what this stuff can do to people. And I never met her before she got sick. And so she wasn't sick like this until she got the well, it's bad. She had some issue, but she got really sick when the smart meter was put on. And that's all I knew her by. And she would just, would come right, went on sentences, kept on talking. And then she'd call me this over and over again, almost like she forgot she called me. And we would hang up the phone, and 6 seconds later, she called me right back. And she wasn't getting mad that I wouldn't answer it, because I couldn't answer the phone all the time because she'd call right back.
Well, that's what a parasite acts like. They cling on.
Yeah.
And you and I can talk straight on this topic because we both have lived through this.
Mm-hmm.
The frequency windows that activate the parasites and activate that, I think, is the number one topic that's missing right now. Is we are dealing with life forms that are growing, either being activated or deactivated by these frequencies. That's the number one topic.
I agree. This is Dr. Robert Kassar, 2017. When I did my fast, first movie he had us watch was The Matrix, and it was pretty interesting. If you want to watch TV, I don't recommend you watch a lot of TV, but you're going to watch The Matrix. And he took me outside of his place, and Dr. Robert Kassar is obviously pretty well to do. He's top, his company, his family owns, unfortunately, big tobacco. But he said these parasites talk to the EMFs. They talk to the cell tower. He even said that, and he said that Wi-Fi it activates the death cycle. He said that's the words he used. It activates the death cycle. So we know this stuff, but this thing was pretty interesting in 2017. He knew what was going to happen in 2017. He knew that they're going to hook us up to the internet. He knew all this stuff.
Well, fortunately, there are actually a couple of MDs and people that are actually coming up with a research gate, and they actually have papers saying this frequency window either kills or grows Staph aureus or E. coli. These biofilms blow up around this frequency. So it's a frequency window, and I have a deep respect for Rife machines and what will explode a life form. But that's way down like 1.6 megahertz. And then there's all these other very lower frequencies, and it's totally a different part of the spectrum. So you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's all frequency. Some can do therapy. I personally don't advocate electromagnetic therapy because I think it gets people kind of caught into the wrong syndrome. We should be out there in the sun. We should be with a fireplace, exercising, doing weightlifting like you do, and using, nature and God and, Jesus to fill our heart. So using electronics is sort of this death spiral that we're transhumanist, and we can't trust ourselves. We can't trust our fundamental existence. We have to give it over to, electricity. So I'm preaching to the choir. Sorry.
That's great. Well, this is awesome. I just wanted to reach out to you. I don't want to take all your time. You're super busy, but I really appreciate you letting me come on and kind of vent with you, because I really wanted to get that current figured out more. And then maybe when you come back to St. Louis, we can have a little fun with the fluke again and do a couple of different things. But
absolutely. And remember, all it is, are you completing a circuit? If any current flows, anything, that fluke blips, there's a circuit. And what does the EPRI people say? That ripple of current through the body, and especially the dirty noise, we're off the charts already. So the whole secret is, how do you not plug the body in to allow current to get through it?
Awesome.
Keep
All right,
on,
brother.
Rob.
I'll talk to you later. Thanks for reaching back out to me. We'll talk soon, okay?
I love seeing your videos. Keep up the great work.
Oh, thanks so much. You made my day. Well, like, they energizes me a little bit to hear that. So thank you.
Take care.
All right, talk to you later. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.